My purpose here is to speak directly to the American families about the work this administration is doing in education to reverse our national decline with a hard reset of our educational system. That reset was a top campaign promise to send education back to the states and end Washington's micromanagement of education once and for all. This week we took the most decisive steps thus far to make good on this promise to you. We have linked 6 groundbreaking partnerships with other federal agencies to delegate education department programs that are redundant with existing programs at Labor, State, Interior, and HHS. These interagency agreements to cut our own bureaucratic bloat are a key step in our efforts to shift educational authority from Washington, D.C. to your state education agency, your local superintendent, your local school board, entities that are accountable to you, and we encourage parents to always be involved. Cutting federal bureaucracy is never a popular move among DC insiders. They're painfully aware that only 3 out of 10 students can read proficiently at their grade level. They know that college students are collectively $1.7 trillion in debt, and less than half of college graduates get a job that actually uses the degree which they studied so hard to get. They see more teachers than ever before leaving the profession due to burnout, over-regulation, and lack of autonomy in the classroom. The Department of Education is a pass-through entity. It doesn't educate a single student. The money it sends to states for education can be sent directly without waste.
Welcome back to the channel. More news coming out of Washington about hard resets. Whenever we're talking about things such as this, especially folks that look like I do, there's an emotional component to it. Do you throw the baby out with the bathwater because of all of the fraud and the bloat that has happened over time? Because if you're honest, you have to be able to recognize that. As I put my video together, I want to focus on the facts. And she mentioned some of the points that we can't overlook. The quality of education, that it can only be measured by the students coming out on the back end based upon certain markers. The reading level, comprehension level, the student loan debt. I see that when folks come to me to secure financing for residential real estate, the amount of student loan debt is through the roof. And then lastly, a lot of people don't even go to work in the field that they have accumulated or amassed all this debt, and now they don't want to pay it back. So those are facts. But then we also have to make sure we have oversight, because when things were always ran by the state, you have bad actors there as well. This is a great topic where we all as a community, where we can all come together on one accord and find some solutions, because ultimately this is where we're going back to, where we're going to have to be accountable, all of us, and we can't just pass on our well-being, our communities to someone, the government, and expect that it come out well, and then want to complain on the back end. Those days are over, I believe, and I think it's a good thing. My name is Robert, and on this channel, my goal is to simplify the home loan process.
They done just declared war on nurses, women, black women, education, and we got to talk about it. A degree in nursing will no longer be considered a professional degree, but a graduate degree from the perspective of the federal government. Now, this is going to affect not only nursing, but other degrees. And what it's going to cause primarily is that you can only borrow $20,000 per year, and then there's a capped amount, whereas a professional degree, like somebody like a doctor, can borrow up to $50,000 a year. Now, what the government is saying is that this will force the prices of these nursing schools to come down to sort of meet what the federal government is giving out. But of course, you and I, we know that never really happens. Now, to me, when I saw it, it clearly looks like something that fits into the agenda of this current administration and what they're trying to do. They said that they were going to gut the Department of Education. And this has meant moving a lot of those different aspects of the Department of Education into other departments as they gut the Department of Education. But kind of, just to give you an analogy, it's kind of like Uno stacking. They don't do anything unless it's going to cause the maximum hurt, the maximum harm, the maximum pain. And so the first thing that this is going to do is it's going to demoralize a lot of people. So if you've gone to school for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years in attaining those degrees and becoming a professional, even though this classification doesn't mean that you're not a professional, just saying the word has an effect. When they say that you are no longer considered a professional from the standard of the federal government, just saying that has an effect. And so for all of you women out there who are not what they would call minorities, now you know how it feels to be called a minority, because a minority is really somebody who is under the age of 18, and they have put you in the position of a child by using a classification. Now, this is what these people do. They do all kinds of divide and conquer tactics. And so while it's not a hot war, it is a war of words. And once those programmed words get into your mind, they definitely have an effect.
I can see his point, but I also see the other side. When you go back and look at how the cost of education has gone up and to the right, it's because of government intervention. When these universities see that we, the people, the government, is going to give a blank check, allowing people to borrow money that they can't pay back because there's really not a market. This is where we have to start looking logically now, not emotionally, at, is there going to be a need, a market for said profession? Because gone are the days of you just going to a government entity and being there for 20, 30, 40 years and getting a pension. Going forward, if you're a nurse in particular, what type of nursing is going to be around for the next 10, 15 years if I decide to invest this money? Because there's a huge problem for those of you that have gotten federal monies to go to school and have amassed these huge loan balances that you don't want to pay off. That's a problem as well. That's going to affect all of us. And so we have to be balanced. Now that the spotlight is being put on these things, that, as he said, if someone says that your degree is worthless, it's psychologically damaging. The fact that you get out of school with these degrees and can't get a job that's commensurate with inflation and a livable wage, that should be demoralizing as well. Let's look at the problem and see if we could come up with a solution.
The Department of Education has now come out with a list of degrees that they are saying will no longer be considered professional. And this list will take effect July of 2026. Some of the degrees that they said are no longer professional include a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, advanced nurse practitioner, nurse practitioners, a physician assistant, teachers, a speech language pathologist, and there's more. But when I saw this again, I couldn't believe it. Because what does that mean on the back end? On the back end, that means that they are attacking female-dominant fields. That's a major blow right there. And secondly, people that are interested in those specific degrees will have a lesser chance in getting the federal funding that they need to get in those programs.
Some of you all were confused, so I got out of bed so that I can explain to you all why a certain level of degrees were downgraded by the Department of Education. You're not going to like it. Let me put on my lip gloss first. So you need to understand the levels and the depths of why they're doing this and what and who it's designed to affect. Now I'm going to keep it real cute and I'm going to keep it really short and simple. The degrees that they declassified make up an overwhelming majority of women. Women work these fields. And when they go into higher levels of education, they become directors of institutions, mental health facilities, things like that, which allows them to make a livable wage. Now, in terms of the declassification, there's one other thing to note. And that other thing to note is by declassifying these particular degrees, you also declassify the amount of funding that one can take out for said degrees. Now, if you didn't already know, Black women make up the largest majority of people who actually take out student loans. And so because of this declassification, it bars out those women who actually want to pursue their education, but don't have the money to pursue it right away because these jobs don't particularly pay at the bachelor's level. So in order for them to get those advanced level degrees, they would have to take out student loans in order to get them. But it would also give them access to some of those director level positions. So there's two demographics that they're going after. They're going after women as a whole so that women can be dependent on their men. And then the subset, Black women particularly, because in order for us to access a lot of these advanced level degrees, we would need to take out student loans. By declassifying them, we would not be able to have access to student loans, thus not furthering our education, thus keeping us out of positions that require that further level of education. Clap that T.
So there you have it, guys. What say you? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Agree with what, Robert? Do you agree that there is an attack on women? Do you agree that the powers that be or men in general are trying to keep women down? Or do you agree with the secretary? Does there need to be a change to get rid of some of the bloat, the bureaucracy that has become the Department of Education? Here's my opinion. We need oversight. You always have to have somebody mining the shop, especially when money's involved, because if not, there's always going to be a crook. That's just what it is. But to what extent? We don't need a million middle managers. And now that technology is getting better and better to be able to become more efficient. And so just like me and my business, I don't have employees anymore. This business has gone from a heavy paper intensive physical documentation type process. And over the years, as I've adopted the technology, me personally, I've reflected that in the cost to you. I've passed that on in the hopes that those that do business with me will appreciate that, because the more staff, the more labor, the more cost, those things at the end of the day get passed on to you. When it comes to the government, I think a lot of folks run and hide in the government because once you get there, it's a blank check. And now we're starting to have checks and balances. And you have to start somewhere, right? You got to start somewhere. So me personally, I feel like we should do this at home and then your city, state, then it goes nationally. Lastly, if you want to go to school, because that was the other theme on all three of the response videos that I showed, they're saying that, hey, there's going to be an attack on you borrowing money. Well, here's the deal. The borrower is serving to the lender. And if you're going to school, there's 15 other questions that you need to ask. The first being, how long is it going to take for me to recoup that money so I can pay it back? That part. That's the first question that you should ask. Is there a market for what it is that I'm going to invest this time and money into? And if I'm missing any, you guys put them in the comment section, and so we can add on to the list, because we're trying to help those that have come, that are coming behind us, that have to make these decisions that you may have had to make that no one brought to your attention. My time is up, and I thank you for yours. As I always say, let's be good to one another. Let us let grace abound. Watch these two videos here, and until the next time, indeed, y'all stay blessed.